but I thought that's what everyone had.
Right.
Because, well, that's what I had at night time. I don't know what's going on in their room at night time. So from a very young age, but my dad was a Catholic, and I done my first mediumistic reading untrained at the age of about 13.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
And that was just because I was known as the person who knew things and spoke to people, and so it was pushed upon me almost.
13. I love it. Bryony, we have got a technical problem going on here. I'm gonna have a little look and just see if I can fix this. You still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. You are still there. Okay, it's telling me we're not live on Facebook. I'm gonna check it. Don't worry, it's all good. These things happen, especially with me. Let's have a little look, see what's going on. Bear with me 1 second, and then we will continue our conversation. I'll be able to see if we're live by just going on my account quickly. Come on, Davey boy. You can do it. Yes, looks like we're live, I believe. So that's all good. Let's crack on with it. For a minute, I was like, oh my God, no. But yeah, so 13 years of age, you were
Yeah.
you were aware of that, yeah. So how did that present itself? Did you like see images or like ghosts and stuff? Or...
So I used to see spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in a flat in Paulsgrove, and it was like an L-shaped flat. And as I walked around the corner, there was this gentleman just stood there, and he was corporeal. He looked as real as another human being stood in front of me. And I just looked at him, but I knew he didn't quite fit. And then I sort of walked around him because I was going towards the front door. But it was my neighbour who lived next door, which you can read about this whole experience in my second book, who actually saw a spirit herself and sent one of her children to come and find me to go and do a reading. I'd had no training. I'd never done it before in my life. I remember just sitting there and just being quiet, and all of a sudden all this information, instant knowledge started coming to me. And some of it she even confirmed many, many years later. And by many years later, I mean like last year. And that actually went into the second book as well.
Wow, that's madness. Because reading your book, you were doing a bit of meditating and stuff like that, and it looked like you were doing some sort of automatic writing, if you can call it that,
Yes.
where you were getting the word paper appeared to you
Yes.
amongst other things, and that seemed to be like the beginning of your journey in that respect. Of,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I was meditating, had inspirational writing, and they guided me that they wanted me to share it all into a book. That's how it all begun.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I still open up to spirit now whenever I write. So it's always guided by then. Yeah. Well, my last book that I published was A Healing Journey. I actually sat down to write a thriller, and I was very excited about it because my life's been that depressing. I've got a few thrillers in me. And I sat down and thought, here we go, thriller me up. And they were like, nope, we're writing a book on healing. I was like, oh. So I was a little bit disappointed because I had other plans. So I let them guide me when it comes to writing.
Wow. And while you were doing this, was this when you were like drinking and drug taking, the beginning of this, or was this afterwards that you started the research or the research? Because it seemed that, you know, the people you came across in your life, you were always like wanting to ask them, you know, what's happiness all about? What, you know, what makes you happy? So was this like sort of after that, really?
So my journey to being sober started in 2005. And lots of people who read the books always go to me, I've read your books, but when did you actually stop drinking? And my honest answer is I stopped drinking for 2 weeks, and then I fell back off the wagon when my dad passed away. I used it as an excuse to start drinking again. And I then reduced my drinking to not drinking in the morning before work. So to me, I wasn't an alcoholic. Obviously, I still was. Then I reduced my drug intake to just drugs I could get off the doctor, so therefore I wasn't a drug addict. Then I reduced my drinking to the evenings. then to the weekend, then just to a Friday night. That whole period was like a very long period of time. So years and years and years. It wasn't just an instant for me. I couldn't. All the reasons I drank were still there. So until I healed from those, I wasn't able to really release myself from my addictions. So to answer your question, when I started that quest, was I still drinking? Probably once in a blue moon.
Right. Okay. So
But I was towards the end of it.
How much would you normally drink in a day then? And like,
So when I was in the thick of it, I would I wouldn't stop drinking till about 3, 4 a.m. And then I'd get up in the morning and I'd probably drink whatever Jack Daniels was left on my side. And then I would go into work. And then my work were very supportive of me because I was very good at my job. So I would stay there for a few hours and then I'd go to the pub and have 4 or 5 doubles, triple Jack Daniels. And then I'd go back to work. And then I'd start drinking again as soon as I finished work. And I would usually drink, if I had to put it into a quantity, probably about 3 bottles of whiskey during the evening, going up until I went to sleep.
and obviously amongst this, you were obviously taking drugs as well. Was this like cocaine?
When I was taking drugs, I would smoke weed,
Ecstasy.
cocaine, whiz, ecstasy. I smoked crack a few times, but
Wow.
I even smoked paracetamol once, which actually gave me a headache.
No way. Oh my
Learned that
God.
lesson the hard way. Yeah.
So within your book, you talk about your OCD and
Yes.
your brother in the book, Brand, also.
Mm.
I mean, is that a true reflection of yourself with the OCD? Is that something that you battled with or come to terms
Yes.
with and accepted?
I've come to terms to use it as a superpower. I have challenged it and I went to therapy over it, but a lot of therapists weren't very interested in me. A lot of them found me too overwhelming and said that it was too much of a bag of worms to open up all of my past and that I was functioning pretty well. But my control was really, really bad when I stopped drinking. So my OCD was through the roof. So if someone moved something, I would literally be vomiting. If someone touched a file at my work, I'd start tapping my head and counting to numbers. It got out of control. Now I've still got a few of my OCDs, but I feel like, and this again, has took me another about 8 years to challenge all of this. I've got to the point now, I mean, yeah, I count to numbers when I'm still brushing my teeth and stuff. But as a whole, I think I am acceptable to society the way I am now. Where before, people would look at me and be like, and I'd be counting to numbers like this as I was walking up and down training, and then I'd count another set, and it just got very much out of control. But that's obviously, I mean, the obvious is I didn't feel control in my real life, so therefore I was trying to control everything else, wasn't it? So it's still there. It's definitely more acceptable. Yeah.
And also, in your book, it says that at 16, I think it was in your book anyway, but I read it, at 16, you were told that your body was being, really damaged. And
Yes.
kept on drinking. And you'd had a few situations where you nearly died.
That you've read about. There's a lot more than that. The ones that I've shared so far. Yeah, I was taken into hospital because I ended up having severe stomach pains all the time, which I didn't know, but it's actually stomach ulcers I was having issues with. And I was getting really severe lower back pain to the point where I was getting people to stand on my back. And the doctor said I'd done so much damage before my organs had fully grown or developed, and that I really should stop drinking. That was me done. That was by the age of 16, which obviously I ignored.
The first couple of chapters of your book are quite interesting, especially when you're on night out and there's a few fights going on.
Oh God, yeah.
I think there was one in particular where you went out with Kaylee, is it? And,
yeah, my niece.
And there was a lady dancing on the dance floor. She was getting a little bit carried away.
Tammy.
She must have bumped into her or something.
Yeah,
a big
that was
fight
crazy
and,
night.
Yeah.
That was quite a regular. It's quite a regular occurrence, I'm afraid to say.
Really?
I was quite bolshy, and I very much believe that I was. My opinion counted. So if I felt like someone had done something wrong, I was brought up that if someone hits you, you don't turn the other cheek. You hit them back and you put them down. I'm not proud of it now, but yeah. So I was, and I've got a lot of nieces, and they cause a lot of trouble. So I will put a little bit of it on them.
Yeah. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because we all do things in our life that aren't always fantastic or, love and light. But it's those things that bring us to this moment now, like
Yeah.
today, what you've achieved. So I'm guessing you wouldn't change anything, would you?
I wouldn't change anything about my life, and I mean that.
Mm.
It's from the hard times, no matter what that might be, whether it's a tire that's flat, or whether it's getting kicked out of a house, or being in a violent relationship. Anything you go through that's a hardship that doesn't kill you, you learn from.
Hmm.
You learn and you grow, and it makes you stronger. It gives you the experience and the tools you need to deal with that situation or to help someone else. So,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't change a thing about it. I really wouldn't.
And also, we in your book, you reference sex quite a lot. It's
Yes.
like
Oh,
it
yes.
reminded me of like one of the guys where all they ever think about is sex, and they're always checking out some girl or something. And it's quite refreshing to know girls do that too, and I'm sure a lot of them do.
Oh,
We all
God,
talk
yeah.
about
I
it.
can introduce you to 10, that's all they do.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
no, it was very much, I had an addictive personality. But if
Yeah,
I'm honest, the reason I was like that with men was probably because I always wanted to have sex, but I never wanted to actually have a relationship. I wasn't equipped for that,
yeah,
to actually
yeah,
take that any further. So the only way you can have sex every night and not actually take that further is to find different people every night, or
yeah,
3 or 4 a night, whatever it might be that gets you through
yeah.
to the next day.
I know exactly what you mean there. I mean, I've always had this. Well, I did have this belief that relationships are normally temporary, and
Yeah.
we shouldn't be bound to one person in life because there's 7 billion people on the planet. And one of the things I really liked about women was that I used to enjoy meeting like a soul, like
Yeah.
just learn, all those little things that you don't normally know about someone just by through being that close to them. Um, so yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare in that respect because
It's
hopefully
a it's a
I'm changing, you know.
it's a bit of a difficult one for me. I mean, I've been in a relationship now with Stephen for a very long time,
Yeah,
and I'm a true believer that, of course, you can be with one person and be very happy, but I'm also a
mm,
true believer that all relationships in life are suitable for a certain time whilst you're growing, and they're not all meant to be
exactly,
permanent. So therefore, you can
exactly.
learn and grow, and as long as you can take
Hmm.
that for the experience, is you can detach
Yeah,
and take the
yeah,
good from it rather than the heartache or the breakup. And most people can't do that. They stay in situations when they become wrong. I mean, if Stephen's
yeah,
watching this now, he's probably got his eyes wide because he knows damn well that I'm completely in love with him and I'm growing with him. But if that
hmm,
changes, then me and him are going to be, and I
yeah,
hope he would feel the same way about me as well.
yeah. No, well, it's true what you say, though. It's true what you say
Yeah.
because this is what happens. People grow together, and then like they start to go in different directions, don't they? And
Mm,
like you say, a lot of people stay in that relationship, and it ain't gonna
mm,
work because you're different trajectories. It's
mm.
it's on its way in a different way, if you like. But I was quite intrigued by your rage, and that anger within you, because I know
Yeah.
your dad was he an alcoholic, your dad, or
Yeah.
was he just like a heavy drinker? Do you think, did you think that had a big bearing on the way you was? Or?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Did I become that way because he was that way? And I mean, my dad didn't really drink around me. He was the type of person that would be okay for a few weeks or even maybe a month. And then he
Yeah,
would go off and you might not see him for a few weeks. There was a few times, I mean, we sat at bus stops and sat there while he drank and whatever, but it was pretty much not around me. I would spot him on the bench with the other homeless people drinking at Commercial Road when I was a child, but he wasn't thrown in my face. So I don't
hmm,
truly believe it's because he was that I became that way. I believe that I couldn't live in this reality and deal with my own feelings, and alcohol and drugs was a way for me to cope. It was a coping mechanism. And
hmm,
every teenager finds alcohol.
hmm.
I just happened to realise that if I carry on drinking all day, every day, and drink enough of it, then I don't care as much. I don't feel as much. So no, I wouldn't assume that it's to do with him. I think I would have found that path even if I was in a single parent household.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I must admit, that myself, I was like the son from hell. You know, I was like brought up in Liverpool, really dodgy area, and I always attracted the wrong people into my life. But I never really had an addictive personality, so I was lucky in that respect. You know,
Yeah.
I was always aware that it wasn't really me, but I needed like a tribe. You know, like I needed that sort of those people around me because somehow they made me uh, feel sort of wanted or whatever, you know, like just to be
Yeah.
part of that of something. And it's so difficult for young people nowadays because the world's like well dodgy. And, you know, there's so many stresses and strains. I mean, at least when we were, well, when I was younger, the prospect of buying a house was a possibility, you know. I mean, it still
Oh,
is
don't get me
today,
onto that.
but
You'll
there's
see the
so, I
rage.
know, there's so many stresses for people nowadays that
Yeah.
you can understand why there's so much mental health and problems going on with young people and suicides and God knows what.
But the good thing about that is it's helping people wake up to taking the soul, the spirit, the mind more serious. So it's bringing people more towards either spiritual and more holistic therapies. They're not just looking at the
Yeah.
physical body and saying there's something wrong with the body. So I believe that is one positive effect that we can probably take from that.
You also you reminded me of myself in many respects that I use my spirituality. It's like a wall that I lean on occasionally, you know. Not quite a lot actually, because I do meditate a lot and I am plugged into it a lot. But there are times where I lean on it a lot more, you know, because it's I don't know, it just seems to help, you know.
Yeah, I find that when I'm working spiritually, the energies are all flowing, everything's cool. And then as soon as I take my self away from my spiritual path, what I'm supposed to be doing, everything seems to just crash and burn.
Can I ask you, was you doing these regular Thursday night sort of spiritual meetings with your friends when you were going through all of this as well?
I was doing those. I started doing those when my drinking was down to once on a Friday night. So I done my spiritualism on a Thursday night. I
Mm-hmm.
drank on the Friday night, and then had my mini breakdown over the weekend. And went back to work Monday, and by Thursday I was fine again. So that was when I was literally at the end of my alcoholism, if you want to call it that.
I tell you, there was a part in your book where you had a dream, yeah, and I
Yeah.
thought it was like real. I was reading it, I was thinking, oh my god, she's on the streets,
Spoiler
and the
alert.
way you, hey, sorry, but the way you described it, right, I really related to it because I
Yeah.
could, the way you described it, it was freedom. You know, it was
Yeah.
freedom from all this bullshit that surrounds us,
Yes.
all this, like the bullshit that's probably going to come. God forbid it doesn't, but you know, the power of the people and all that. Most people are asleep, but anyway, don't matter. It is what it is. But I did really like that. It was the way you described it. It was quite romantic in some respects, even though you were saying that you were like cold and you know,
Well,
it stuck out for me.
it can sound very seductive to people that are in the rat race that really know that they don't
Yes.
belong there.
Yeah.
But you have to be in the rat race to get out the rat race. So
Yeah.
it's a real difficult one,
I've
isn't
al-
it?
I've always been aware that it's not supposed to be like this. If you see what I
No.
mean.
Mm, yeah.
Definitely not. So, there's another. I don't want to spoiler alert, but there's another part where you had a little dog, isn't it?
A little dog.
Met, met.
Oh, Mets. Yeah. Oh, bloody
Yeah,
hell.
and there was
Yeah.
like a couple over that, wasn't there, with your.
Oh, God, yeah. That's what, we don't talk about that at family events.
I tell you, for people that are watching, the book's like incredible. It's great. I don't want to give too much away, but you know. it's just worth it's definitely worth a read. It involves like guns and
Yeah.
possibly bricks through windows and wanting to kill people.
I still get invited to family events now, though.
Do you?
Not all of them, but yeah, most of them.
The other thing I liked in your book was the little quotes that you would do. You
Yeah.
know, you do your own little
Yeah.
quotes. Obviously, you had some famous quotes in there, but you had some of your own quotes, which I quite enjoyed. Got one here. I'm going to read it out. It's all right, innit? I can read it out.
Oh, yeah,
Read
yeah,
a little
sure.
bit. If you never try, then you can never fail, but you will also never win. Yeah. So
Mm.
it's quite true, isn't it? You know, a lot
Yeah.
of people they're too afraid. There's too much fear to take that leap and try something new. But if you never even try it, you're going to fail anyway. You've got nothing to lose, really, have you?
No.
By trying something new.
Mm.
There is a lot of fears, though. It's like if you've got a mortgage and a job and you don't like your job and you're finding it difficult to give up your job because, like, if you give up your job, you might not be able to find another job, or all those stresses and strains. Again, it's the system that puts all that pressure on us, isn't it? And takes that sort of freedom away from people that are like in too much fear to actually take the plunge and do something. But your your love for exercise shone through in the book as well.
Oh, yeah.
I, so many of my friends who are past alcoholics, they're all like, working out in the gym, and like they like funnel this energy into something else, and normally they're really
Yeah.
successful at it. So you can be really
Yeah.
successful alcoholics, but at the same time they could be successful in whatever they did if they put their mind to it, because they've got that drive. And I've got to be honest, I've always been a little bit, what's the word? A bit not jealous, but like I admire it because it's something that I've struggled with myself, drive, and I still struggle with it. I have to force myself to do things often.
Well,
Do you know what I mean?
oh, I'm a very driven person, and that's putting it politely. Most people call me obsessed, super
Mm-hmm.
focused, but the truth is, it's all about motivation, isn't it? If I said to you, if you go to the gym at 6 a.m. tomorrow, I'll give you £1 million, you'd be straight there. It's all just motivation. And everything we do is fear of loss or desire of gain. So if your fear of your body being unhealthy is enough, it will
Mm-hmm.
push you enough. But no, I am very easily driven, easily focused. I get hyper focused on what I want or what I plan to do, and then I go for it. And it can usually be used as a superpower, but they call it swapping one addiction for the other. So I was exercising up to 6 hours a day, and then I started
Wow,
doing the
that's a lot.
kickboxing, and I started
Sheesh,
teaching other
man.
kids.
You must have been fit as you like.
I was not now. I've had since my two car crashes. I can just about do some yoga stretches without kicking off all my stuff and going blind in this eye. So that's been taken away from me. So the fact that I've stayed sober during that is actually a bit of a kudos to me,
Wow.
really. But yeah, I
So
love
you were,
exercise. It's just so simple. There's no games. There's no, although it can be a game, obviously. But it's just you going against what it is you're trying to beat. You're trying to beat yourself, and I love that. I do. I really.
from my own experience, because I'm quite a happy-go-lucky, joyful sort of person, smile a lot, all that sort of thing. I feel happy within myself. I like who I am, but I also have noticed in the past that I can get like very lazy. Like
Mm,
I'll just like I can't be bothered doing anything. And being a therapist, I recognise symptoms, but like when it's only a little bit, nothing like major. But when I actually train and work out, that just dissipates and goes. It's like
yeah.
incredible. It's I don't know. Obviously, you're releasing endorphins in the brain and everything else, but I don't know what happens. It seems to work, definitely.
Yeah. Gives you that kick, but you need to actually start it. It's just the starting it, isn't it? Once you
Yeah,
start it, it's all right, and it affects everything else.
it
Eat
does.
healthier because you're
It
training
does.
out more.
It really is incredible. And like you say, it's really important to have a goal. you know, and a destination, as they say. Well, there you go,
I,
isn't it?
I'm
Yeah,
laughing because I'm sat in my kitchen, and behind where the webcam is, I've got my vision boards and goals all on my fridge.
really, have you really?
Yeah, and then I've
But
got
that,
books with the goals written in them. So yeah, I'm a
yes,
firm believer in aiming for something. Otherwise, you're just pondering through life. And I suppose it'd be quite nice just to ponder and experience everything as you go along. But I do like to have a plan and clear goals of what I'm heading towards.
yeah, but it's a bit like this idea of attraction, you know.
Yeah,
Like you just said, if you're just pondering along, yeah, most of it ain't gonna come to you unless you're incredibly lucky and it's your like soul contract, your destiny for it to just come
yeah,
to you. But we all have to we all have to put the work in, don't we? And like,
yeah.
but you know, having the vision board, yeah, and the idea of that is it's reminding you all the time. Do you accept the fact to some degree that that form of attraction, you know, because you're. I mean, I've got like subliminal messages on my my computer screen flashing on and off all the time as I'm talking to
Yeah.
you, and they're saying, you know, really positive things, uh, going
No,
into the
I do
subconscious.
believe in visualization and manifestation. Your thoughts are living things. You're manifesting the world around you with your thoughts. And you just think about how many thoughts you're having all day, every day. You've got that inner monologue that's constantly going on. Did you turn the cooker off? Oh, I bet it's going to rain. Oh, I'm going to have to de-ice the car. And it's that constant thoughts. And then how many of those
Yeah.
thoughts are you sending for good reasons or for manifesting the stuff that you want? So anything that's a reminder to what you're actually aiming for is going to help you send more energy towards what you're trying to manifest rather than your worries, anxieties, and concerns.
It's a
So
bit like
yeah,
out
definitely.
of mind, out of sight, out of mind. So it's a reminder, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
You know, with your vision board and everything. So through your time of alcoholism and drug taking, how many times did you actually go to rehab?
I only went to rehab once. I went to rehab in 2005. I
Hmm.
ended up doing 6 weeks altogether, but 4 weeks of it was at rehab. 2 weeks of it I was allowed to go home and sleep, and then I had to go back there.
Uh, and
Um, and it 100% worked because it ruined my drinking. And I know that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to stop you from drinking, but it ruined it. You think I got to the fine age of wherever I was when I went into rehab without having a hangover, feeling strange or unusual. For me, I felt normal when I was drowning in whiskey. And then I started feeling guilty about drinking. And then I started having complete psychotic breaks. And then I started having these spiritual earthbound attacks. And in the end, it got so bad drinking the following day that that helped me to stop as well. So it's actually spiritualism that really saved me,
yeah,
if I'm
yeah.
honest.
No, absolutely, and I really understand that because it's
Yeah.
saved me many times as well. And you say one thing in your book about look, sorry to all my friends and family, but like I loved alcohol like more than them in some respects. It's a bit like
Yeah.
your love for alcohol, and I really really sort of stood out to me that because it makes a lot of sense talking to other people that have experienced that. They
Yeah.
loved alcohol paramount. You know.
Yeah.
Just gonna have a look here. We've got some
Well,
comments.
oh,
Oh, David McHugh. Hey, David McHugh, can you see those at all? Let's have a look. Here we go. Hi guys, good to be here. Good to see you,
okay.
David. Nice to and Colette. That's his good wife.
Hey,
She's a
Colette.
lovely lady. Both therapists. Um, let's have a look what Colette's saying here. This is why we need to teach young people functional skills to manage stress, trauma before they find dysfunctional ones. Very true.
Mm.
What David? I would say we are wired for addiction. If so, if we don't place boundaries around toxic activities, we will get addicted. What do you think, Bryony?
I don't, well, you could put twins in the same situation, and one may drink and become an addict while the other one may not. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that 100%, but I think we'd have to do a lot of testing to test that theory.
Yeah, it's true though. They have found that with twins with different things, haven't they? Where like one goes crazy and the other one doesn't, or goes off the rails or whatever.
Well, everyone responds differently, but I do agree with the other lady's comment about teaching the tools of how to deal with stress and trauma, and I think they are combating that because they are doing mental health and well-being in schools now. I've actually started going into schools and teaching early intervention for drink and drug addiction and early signs of mental health. Now, that did not exist when I was at school. So the schools are aware of it, and they are trying to push for mental health advocates within the schools. So I think they are going in that direction, which is brilliant.
No, absolutely, and it's so important because traditionally you don't get taught that sort of stuff. Energy flows where attention goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I think there has to be a lot more done in schools, actually, because it's a bit of an epidemic now, isn't it, with mental health.
They're expecting, a lot of the schools are expecting the teachers to all pick up this mental health stuff. But I think they all do really need to have a teacher program and area that's dedicated just to it, rather than expecting all teachers to almost suddenly dibble and dabble a little bit in mental health when actually they might be there because they're a geography teacher or a maths teacher. Now they're being asked to actually do mental health classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
I know the colleges are definitely doing it. But yeah, it's definitely needed.
And not just that, also we need classes that are totally devoted to the potential things in life, because like you come out of school and all of a sudden you've got like this life of freedom in some respects, you haven't got that many responsibilities, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into the world and it's like what, it's like especially nowadays, like if you a lot of kids can't even leave home because they can't even afford to rent a place,
Yeah.
So it's crazy. And then there's the stress of living with the parents, the embarrassment of that for some people, because they always say, "I live with my parents," because it's not cool, is it? So do you think what advice would you give to somebody that is experiencing sort of situations with drugs and alcohol? What would you say to them?
I would ask them whether they're happy, and are they able to understand themselves of why they're doing the drink and drugs? Because as an ex or as an addict or alcoholic, I know that no one will give up until they're ready to give up. They have to have that internal agreement with themselves. I'm going to give up. You can't batter someone into giving something up. You can't push and push and push. You can threaten to leave them. You can threaten for them to lose their job. They will only give up when they're ready to give up. But unless you take away the reason of the person for drinking, the root cause is where it needs to be tackled.
Absolutely. What's your thoughts on the idea of the unconscious? That has learned a particular way of being through whatever circumstances, and because it's unconscious, which is like I see it as one of humankind's, whatever created us was one of their fuck ups, because a lot of people are driven unconsciously in what they do. And sometimes the chances of actually discovering that can be quite difficult, unless you maybe go for therapy or you do a lot of talking, talking therapy or whatever.
Well, I suppose without sounding too deep, it brings you back to knowing yourself. And you're right, if someone doesn't go to therapy or someone isn't really a deep thinker, they may not be able to connect with themselves. I mean, you can ask someone a generic question. Why did you say that the other day? And they go, I don't know. And it's either because they don't want to tell you or because they honestly do not know. So how do you try and help people to think deeper or think on a higher level? Only by the mainstream pushing know yourself and asking them the question, who am I? Who are you? Maybe just by people like yourself asking that question now can raise awareness and help others to really think about who are they.
I've always been a firm believer that you know, to get through life in an easier way, if you like, you know, is to like who you are. I think it makes such a massive difference.
Mm.
You know,
I'm not trying to plug here, but in my last book that I've actually published,
you can play as much as
which
you
is a
like.
healing journey, but I'll give it a shout. I'll give it a go.
Mm.
I talk about how it's actually the questions of why and how that actually trouble us as humans. Why did he do that? Why did she say that? Why did mum treat me that way? Why doesn't that person love me? And it's all these whys of trying to understand the actions of other people who don't understand themselves that can actually drive us insane. And if we can be comfortable with just accepting that people in their own bubble don't even understand themselves, and we're not responsible or even obliged to try and understand them, it doesn't change the outcome. You can figure out why they dumped you, but it doesn't change the fact they dumped you. You can figure out why your mum doesn't love you. Maybe she's got her own issues and tissues, but it doesn't change the fact she doesn't love you.
How I got around this, right, was that I came to a very deep understanding that this is all a fantastic dance, yeah.
Yes,
You know,
you are right.
life itself, and everyone's doing their own little dance. And so, like, if someone like upset me, I would see them in their own little dance, and therefore it was different. It didn't bother me as much, you know, because I was like, oh, they're just doing what they do. Bless them. I'm glad I'm not on their path, but saying that their path's perfect in that moment, because you know it's like everything's perfect.
Yeah.
I believe whatever's going on. So it's quite interesting. And going back to the unconscious again, there's this idea that these unconscious motivations are parts of us that always have our best interests at heart and can guide us and direct us in ways that appear to be, you know, hurtful and stuff, but actually trying to help us.
Yeah.
I'm just got another. This is Colette again. Absolutely, I work with teachers who are expected to support their students' mental health issues but aren't trained to help.
Mm.
Yeah. And self-acceptance is really important. It's so important, Colette. Definitely, I'm a big advocate of that. Definitely. Really, really important. Cool, we're getting lots of stuff off you guys tonight. Thank you for tuning in and you know, offering your words. Very interesting. So going back to your book again, right? When did you write that one?
Shh.
What year
Sorry,
was
it's
that
the
you wrote that one? Was it like 2018 or something, was it? When you actually wrote the book?
I actually started writing the book in 2011.
Okay.
And then I got to the final two chapters, and I stopped writing the book because Brand got really poorly. So I was working, running a business, and his cancer was obviously taking up a lot of my time as well, even if it was emotional. And I just left the book and forgot about it. And it wasn't until about 2019, I think it was, I thought, I'll just finish that book off, shall I? And I literally it was actually quite an angry process for me because I had to reread the book to write the last two chapters because obviously it had been so long. And when I read the book, my life was probably at its peak spiritually. And I was literally working in such synchronism with all the energies around me. And I was in the height of probably my happiness at the time. So when I came back to it and I was like, well, I'm not doing half that stuff now, it actually made me quite angry. So I think you can tell in the last two chapters that comes across. I'm a completely different person because so much time had lapsed. And then the following year, I think it was lockdown. I was still working full time, and I just thought, oh, I better publish that book. It just came like, oh, okay, I'll publish it now, and that was it. And then it came out in November 2021, and here I am writing book number 5 now.
Wow. Well, I've got your little plug here. I've got your next book. Is it upside down?
Which one did you read? You read Discovering the Key to Happiness and Fulfillment?
I did, yeah.
So my next book is Conversations with the Dead.
Yeah,
And then
didn't
Bloodshed. But they can be
remember.
read in any order.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that actually. I
They
started
work
reading
in.
this one, and I was thinking, hang on a minute, no, you started to read the wrong book, Dave. So you've got to get the other one. So I stopped reading it.
So they can be read as standalones. So if you hadn't read
Yeah.
the other books, and we've had readers that have left me reviews saying I hadn't read the other books and I didn't even need to, I still enjoyed the book. And the books can be read. Bit of a Star Wars question here. Which one do you read first? Some people say, well, your second book's a prequel, so should I read that first? My brain starts going, no. And I'm like, if you want to. So I think reading them in the order of publication is best, personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just going back to your first book, when you left it for so long, did you not feel that connection? Because you had that connection, didn't you? Spiritual connection, writing it. Was that not the same when you went back to it? Was you like sort of disconnected with that now? But the fact that you had sort of overcome so much, you were able to obviously write them two last chapters a bit differently, because it does stand out.
Yeah.
So was you still connected writing it?
Was I still doing inspirational writing for the last two chapters, or was I connected even when I wasn't? Yeah. I was still connected for that. As soon as I start writing, I always meditate and ask them for guidance. I didn't have too many issues disconnecting from the book when I stopped writing, because I actually disconnected from my guides. I took a year off. I had a bit of issues in tissues, and I decided not to talk to my guides or teach spiritual development for a year or do readings, and that's when my life went to pot, if I'm honest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find myself, when I disconnect from that, whatever it is, it's different. It's not the same.
Yeah.
But it's a bit like that. It's always on the shelf, and only when I need it, I go to it. But I want to change that so that it becomes part of my life in a bigger way, to make it like, to be connected a bit more. So like wake up in the morning and meditate, do some conscious breathing, whatever, and just make it part of the everyday.
Yeah.
It's like and eating healthy and stuff like that, and maybe taking supplements and stuff is part of that as well. Looking after your body and mind.
Yeah.
Because there's so much. The food is shit, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like
so many chemicals on it.
Oh my god! I remember when I did macrobiotic eating about 15 years ago. So it was really like rice and vegetables every day, little bit of organic chicken very occasionally. And we used to go into like Tesco's in them days, and there was nothing. There was hardly anything we could buy. It was all like really dodgy foods,
Yeah.
And that's a big problem as well, because people don't realise that we are what we eat. That's what they say.
Yeah. When they're putting chemicals on our food, and we're made up of chemicals, and I've got a friend who's very into which chemicals are in which food and that, and it's scary when you start looking into it. Go on a diet of eating just dust or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, well, it's difficult as well, and it'd be nice if we went back to the old way, maybe when we all had a little bit of like a vegetable patch in the garden, and at least we could. I mean, people do that, but it became more widespread where people were like growing their own carrots and tomatoes.
Oh, definitely, and then sharing some of your carrots with down the road, and in return they give you some of theirs.
As well. Yeah. And that's another thing as well, the aspect of a community, it's, in the world, or especially in this country. I remember, obviously I'm a lot older than you, but not that much older. But like, in the old days, you'd often know all your neighbours, and it was like a little support network,
Yeah.
I feel like that's sort of lost nowadays.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's and people are like just on their own, which makes it even worse, doesn't it?
But I think people do try to find a community in other ways. You think in modern times, you've got people that are part of book groups, you've got people that are part of different spiritual circles, yoga groups, sunrise groups. So they might not be in that community feel that's directly in front of them, but I think they try and find a community that they feel safe in. It's just unfortunate they usually find those online, obviously, but at least that's a way to feel connected. I mean, in a way when you can't actually see each other. I mean, look at COVID when we couldn't. All suddenly FaceTime took over and TikTok exploded and people found new ways to try and still socialize.
Actually, talking about that, you've got a TikTok channel, haven't you?
I have.
Bryony. You have. You've got over 10,000 followers. Very impressive. See what I've got.
I only set that up when I released my book, and Instagram and Twitter. I'd never used it before in my life. So don't ask me how I've done so well on there and grow my communities on them.
I think
Especially,
with that, you know, you have to do it regularly, don't you? You have to like be plugged in a fair bit to TikTok to keep that
yeah, I
momentum going.
think I mean, TikTok tells you what they want. So their algorithm changes. They start pushing what they want, whether it's going to be it's a 7-second video. Now it's going to be a longer
Yeah.
video. Now it's going to be people that do CapCut. It's going to be like a Google engine. So whatever they tell you they want, as long as you can just go, okay, that's what I'll start doing. And then you just play around with it and find what works. I've took my foot off the gas a bit now that I've got to over 10,000 followers. I think before I was like, oh gosh, I need to get more followers. So people don't look at me and just go, oh, 30 followers, who's she? And you're trying to find a community on there as well of other people that are like-minded. So I think I've managed
I,
to do that on there, which is good.
I find it interesting TikTok actually because like I sometimes flick through the lives, you know, when people go live, yeah,
Mm,
and it's like quite sad, really, you know, some of the
really?
stuff on there. Yeah, in the sense that people are just like doing the dishes, you know, or they're just looking at the camera, or they're just talking shite, you know. It's like
I have
I
realised
went on
that.
there, I went on there, did a live about it was about mental awareness and stuff like that, and like I didn't get a lot of interest. Do you know what I mean? I
Did you
just
have your
found it
shirt off or
interesting.
on?
I had it on.
You don't wear it for
I
all of them
might
though,
wear
do you?
it.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. No, I had my shirt on for that. It was a live, but
Oh.
I do like it. There's some if you like it, it'll show you what you sort of like. If you watch something, it might show you more of that. So I watch a lot of stuff of what's going on in the world. You know, which can be a bit depressing in itself.
Yes.
Let's have a little look at this. Bryony is writing a key to your spiritual development as your
He's
journey of
writing.
self-discovery.
It's definitely helped. It's been a lot of people ask, has it been a form of therapy? And for me to really be honest and write my books, I had to set myself back in those moments and relive those moments. But I think it's only when you can actually go through those moments again, you can actually be free of them. I can talk about some very serious stuff that's happened in my life and you won't see a tear shed. And it's not because I'm heartless, it's just because it doesn't cause me pain anymore. I see it for what it is, just a learning experience. So, yeah, my writing's definitely been a key to my self-discovery, I think. As for my spiritual development, my books are a continuation of my spiritual development as I'm reaching further and wider audiences, especially with my invitations to go and chat at different groups. So I think it's the spirit world has moved me into a new direction. It wants me in front of loads of people talking and sharing my knowledge and growth with them and then putting seeds inside of them. So let's say yes.
I also find with therapists, some of the most successful therapists are the ones that've been through the worst shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, you know, like people who might specialize in anxiety and post-traumatic stress have often experienced that in quite a full-on way. And, you know, you got to watch what you wish for with the universe, you know, which I've experienced a few times. So I'm very careful what I say, but sometimes I'm like, oh, well, you know, although my life was what it wasn't probably nowhere near as bad as their lives. And does that have an effect on the way I am moving forward on my journey, doing therapy and stuff? You know. weird.
Yeah, I think there must be the right type of therapist for the right type of patient. A certain therapist obviously have better results with a patient than what one person might. It's the same as having a reading. There's some mediums that you can say, oh, they're absolutely brilliant. And your friend would go, I thought he was rubbish. And it's not because he is brilliant or rubbish, it's because it wasn't the right medium for them. And I think it must be true with the therapy. And as you say, your own experiences, is that going to make you a better therapist if you're helping someone in that situation?
Yeah.
Or is it going to maybe hinder some of your responses?
I guess it
That's
would
something.
if the therapist hadn't dealt with all the skeletons, and sometimes you can sort of lead the client maybe in a direction that you wouldn't have done because of things, attachments you've got to certain things, if you see what I mean. Look at this one, Bryony. Our community has a sharing shelf where you can put excess produce, lots of those in. Oh, okay. Has a sharing shelf where you can put excess
Yeah, that's
produce.
cool.
Yeah, that
The
is
food.
good, actually. Yeah, you see that sort of in Tesco's as well, don't you? Where they have the baskets where you can like put a can of beans in there for the food banks and stuff like
Well,
that.
Tesco's actually got a zero waste policy, so they give all their excess food to the homeless and the people that are in need of food, vulnerable people. So they actually don't. They have zero waste. It's a really, really good thing. So big up to Tesco.
It is. So are you? Let's just put your books on here, actually, Bryony. Bear with me. Here we go. So we've got Bloodshed in the Hampshire Cabin, Conversations with the Dead, A Healing Journey, and obviously the one that I read. Have you got any more books on the go? Or
Well, yeah, I've actually just started book number 5, which is another Girl from Pompey book. So A Healing Journey isn't the Girl from Pompey book, but it does contain stuff about me. So I'm just starting a new one now, which is The Girl from Pompey Escaping the Rat Race.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I bet that's an interesting one. Absolutely. It's funny you were talking about you don't get too involved with past events because it was a learning experience. It's funny the way I see things is like this, and some people it comes across as a bit cold, right? But I see everything as just things happening because there is no
Yeah.
emotion really. There is no emotion. The only emotion is what I attach to whatever's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in truth, things just happen.
Yeah.
I'm just
And we
wondering if
can let that experience go through us, or we can hold on to it and let it change how we act in the future.
So it just seemed related to what you said, like the way you said it is similar to that, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it's something that happened, and whatever's being dealt with, and now you, like you say, you can look at it as just something that happened, and you're here today in the now, doing what you're doing now.
Yeah. Led me to this point.
I think it's important as well for people to to realize that not everything lasts forever. There's
No.
always a little bit of hope. I think everyone needs a bit of hope, I guess.
That's what drove me to share my books is not just obviously the spiritual input, which was they wanted me to do it, but it's the fact that I thought if I can help one person who's in a dark spot with their mental health, not necessarily drink or drug addiction. I didn't envision people reading that when they're in the midst of their let's drink 3 bottles of whiskey and let's get this book out. No, not when they're in the midst of the thick of it. But someone who's going through mental health problems to pick up my book, because a lot of people do that. I used to read through the night when I couldn't sleep and when I was losing the plot and seeing things, so I'd get a book out. So if my book could help even just 3 or 4 of those people, that's what I was really hoping to do. It's only after that first book came out and it just blew up like wildfire, and people did say it helped him stop drinking. There's even reviews on Amazon that say they haven't had a drink since they read my book, or they've started a new life or a new business. And then the public wanted more. So I thought, let's give them some more then. But yeah, that's what I really wanted to do, was to help people in those dark times, because you feel lonely when you're in that situation. Only you have to live in here.
Yes. There was, I'm trying to find it. Hopefully I can find it. There was something you wrote which was really poignant. I'm not probably going to be able to find it now. I don't know what to do with it, but I made a note of writing it down. But
Is it about who
like
I've wrote the book?
it's about the feeling of being in that darkness, you know, like that aloneness. I'll find it later. Oh, here we go. Found it. So here we go. So I'm a waste of oxygen. That's interesting. Through the foggy mind and sweat as you detox, vomiting the days away and shaking like a washing machine. That was really, really very descriptive, you know.
Yeah, I was always a bit shaky.
Yeah.
Exercise helps with that, though. It helps with the adrenaline.
Yeah.
Mm.
So do you actually still suffer today from any sort of physical remnants of all your past drinking and drug taking? Did it take its toll in any way that still can affect you to this day, or?
Well, yeah, I've got a lot of medical conditions that unfortunately are long term, uncurable. I still get recurring stomach ulcers. I can go to the doctor with a bad knee and they'll do a blood test to check my alcohol levels and check on the other bits and bobbies. I had a lot of physical effects. So I started getting a lot of water infections when I stopped drinking because I stopped drinking everything because all I drank was alcohol. So when I stopped drinking, I just didn't drink nothing. So I can go all day and I won't even have a glass of water. And then I was getting poorly in that sense of the word. I think physically I've healed pretty well. Obviously, I've still got my stomach ulcer, but they come and go. So apart from that, I think I've healed pretty well physically. I mean, I'm celebrating my birthday in a few days, my 40th, and the doctors told me I wouldn't live to 30. So they were wrong, and I beat the system. So yeah, I think as a whole, my body's pretty good considering.
So going forward, besides writing your next book, right? What you're going to? Have you got any ideas of where you're going to, put your time into? Maybe like doing more work, as you say, getting in front of people and talking about your experiences and.
Well, my journey at the moment as an author, I mean, I write books and I go to spiritual events, but I'm also asked to be a guest speaker at some of these events. I go to private groups in the local area, some further away. I've been going to schools and doing the early intervention for drink and drug addiction. And I have lots of groups that contact me and ask me to go and do chats there, including like people like Positive Living. And I've also volunteered to go and be a guest speaker under a different name at AA groups, etc. So it really is a whole spider web of different angles that I'm going for trying to help and impact in those ways. I hope to be a full-time author pretty soon and carry on with my spiritual development, holistic healing, doing the author events, going into schools. So however they want to steer me, I'm quite happy to go in that direction.
Fantastic. It sounds exciting. Absolutely. Yeah, sharing your experiences, like you say, if you can just help one person not drink or take drugs, or get to the people before they actually do it, just by sharing your experiences and absolutely. So it's just people wanted to get hold of you, Bryony, so they can get hold of you here, is that correct? No, that's me. Myself now. Here we go. How about that? Is that your website, is it?
Yep, that's my website. I'm also on Facebook, The Girl from Pompey. I'm on Instagram as Best Bryony. I'm on Twitter and I can't remember my Twitter name. Someone else set that up for me. I think it's Best_Bryony. And on TikTok as well, you can find me as Bryony Best or The Girl from Pompey.
Yeah, we
So you
got
can
you there.
just,
That's
I'm on
that one
Goodreads
there.
as well.
And obviously, if they want to get your books, I'm assuming they sell them in on Amazon, maybe Waterstones, places like that, or
You can buy them from all major retailers, but if you are someone who
mm,
likes to support local, then you can buy
mm,
them from J&K Wellness in Drayton, Farlington area. They've been very
okay,
supportive. And also the Bridge Bookshop down in Portsmouth, you can buy them there. And they did have
mm.
copies in the Petersfield Bookshop, but they've probably sold out of those by now. So, and the Mystic Coffee Shop in Cosham.
Oh, nice. The Mystic Coffee Shop. I must go pop in there. What's that like then? Quite a funky
It's really
place,
nice. I mean,
is it?
you've got lovely food. They also do vegetarian and vegan. And then you've
Okay.
got this other bit of the shop which sells spiritual items, crystals,
Oh,
and you've got
really?
Kate
I
there, obviously
like
does a
that.
reading. So yeah, it's a lovely, welcoming place. You should definitely check it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, my books are
I
in there on
always,
sale.
well, it might still happen, but I always thought about setting something like that up. A little place where people could go to, where they can meet other people, like-minded. And
Yeah,
just chill out with each other
yeah.
and conversations. Love it. Well, have you got anything else
Well,
to add, Bryony?
um, just if anyone does want to reach out to me, I do respond to people. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, if you haven't checked out my books, then go download or go buy some books, support local, and let me know what you think.
Well, I can definitely recommend the Discovery, The Key to Happiness and Fulfillment, the one I've read. It's a bloody brilliant book. Fantastic. Oh, I've lost you. Oh, okay, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I don't know what's happened to Bryony. She's disappeared. Let's just show this. My healing from trauma allowed me to reconnect with my feelings, and now I don't feel lonely. Connection is everything in terms of mental health. What do you think? Well, David, I definitely agree with that. Reconnecting with yourself. I don't know what's happened to Bryony. We've lost her. She's gone. She can probably still see me. I don't know. Look, I just want to say thanks to Dave and Colette for joining in on our conversation. It's good to hear from you both, and we will be back with more chat going forward. I've got a few people that are going to be coming on the channel talking about what they do, so I'm quite excited about that. Obviously, I'll put all that on Facebook and my little advert that I do. If you get a chance to follow and subscribe, especially if you're on YouTube, that would be amazing. And yeah, thank you all, and I wish you all good night.